from NHS England, NHS Improvement. She is the Advocacy, Innovation and Learning Senior Manager. So Audrey has worked with us. I think it's coming to 3 months now, I think, since she started having some involvements with our trust and trying to look at inclusive speaking up and how we involve and engage everyone with regards to our speaking up. So you will get to understand a bit more about this project when Audrey speaks to us. But I would also want to acknowledge the presence of our Freedom to Speak Up champions. Hello, all champions. It's very good that you could join. Some of our champions obviously are not BME, but we thought that it's very important for our champions. Oh, you can see Jane waving there. We thought it's important for our champions to join because their role is to support everyone, all groups within the trust. So it's important that they understand the issues, the challenges that every individual or different groups within our workforce face. So it will be an opportunity for them to learn and for some of them to contribute as well what they have found out in their journey and as champions. So it's really good to have you, Freedom Speak Up champion, and for all the great work that you are doing to support our colleagues. Speaking up is not easy at all. It's very challenging, hence people need our support. So welcome. I think I'll probably want to stop there. So we're just gonna, I think, if we start saying everyone introduces themselves, we might run a bit out of time, but maybe as people contribute or talk, they can say a little bit about themselves so as to not run behind our time. So at this moment in time, I will just hand over to Rashane, who will just do a quick poll before Audrey speaks. And then after Rashane has finished, then Audrey. Is that right, Audrey? Did I?
No, me first and then Rashane.
All right then. Okay, you first.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. Yeah,
you're welcome.
Wanted to say hello to everyone. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. I really think it's a great honour for me to be here. So thank you for all coming out as well. I'm going to sort of share presentation, and so I'm going to share my screen and take it off again. Then Rashane's going to come to you. So I'll say a little bit more about what I do later on. But yeah, I work for NHSEI and I'm one of the Advocacy, Learning, Innovation Senior Managers there, working on Freedom to Speak Up, on working particularly on this project. And this project is around inclusive freedom to speak up. I'll explain just a little bit why we started this project, and then we can go into why we started this. Is because last year we were doing some work on inclusive recruitment and especially around being more inclusive in our recruitment process for guardians, because we didn't see that there was a lot of Black, Asian, minority ethnic guardians. So we wanted to understand why that was. However, because of the pandemic, and the chief nursing officer came to us and says, well, what are we doing about BME nurses? Because they've been highly affected by COVID and the pandemic. And that's when we thought, well, actually, we don't know. We don't know what's stopping them speaking up, etc. So we wanted to do some work around, well, actually, what's causing people not to raise concerns, especially at this time. And if they are raising concerns, what's going on? Where's it going? Hence the reason why we're doing this as a pilot project. So we're doing 3 pilots and you are one of them. You're one of the honoured chosen ones. And so thank you for your time. So we want to do this to really try and get a bit more of understanding what's going on. In fact, I've had a light bulb moment already, because Simbi said to me, she sent me an email saying, oh, well, you know, a lot of the BME workers work nights. And then I just realised, oh my goodness, that's it. That's one of the issues. They work nights. Have we got guardians, champions on the night shift? And I thought, well, that's probably one of the major issues. And hence we were talking about why people haven't taken up a lot of the a lot of these workshops, and that could be another reason. But hence we'll find out other reasons as well. So I'll stop there and I'll just share what we're going to talk about today. Let me get my slides up. Oh, it's just finding it, that's the thing. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're all saying yes. Right, let me just go back a bit. So just to let you know what we're going to be discussing for the next 2 hours, we're going to do a bit of a sort of survey with you, a quick sort of icebreaker session in a little while. And then I'm just going to talk a little bit about why raising concerns matter. And then we're going to have 2 speakers who's going to come and speak to us today. And I think they're proven to speak up champions. Then we're going to do some breakout sessions. And we've particularly got 4 key questions that we want to explore during our breakout sessions. After that, we'll have someone who's going to speak, and Annette McGaw, who's going to speak, why should I speak up? Why is it important to speak up? And then we'll just have some feedback from the breakout sessions. Then any questions and answers, then do that, and next steps. And what I would say to you as well, during the time that we have here, use the chat, bring up some questions that you might have. Hopefully we'll get to discuss them at some stage. So, you know, just use the chat as well. Okay, so let me stop sharing and I'm going to hand over to Rashane. Rashane, are you there? You're on mute.
Sorry, hi everyone. Sorry about that. Right, so what I'm going to do is, if I just share my screen with you all, we've actually got a poll that we would like you all to fill out. So what I'll do is I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see. So as you can see, there's just 4 quick questions that we want you to answer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send the link in the chat now, and then if you could all click on it and then answer it kind of straight away, and then kind of just submit it, and then we'll be able to gather the responses afterwards. That's all right. So if you can see in the chat now, I'm going to send it. So yeah, so in this chat here, you should all be able to see a link to that questionnaire. So if you could just click on that, and then once you've done, kind of just let us know that it's been done. Would you say about 5 minutes or so, Audrey? Yeah. Okay. So hopefully you can all see that in the chat now.
Rashane, someone's saying that they don't have permission. Ella
Yeah,
Wall.
I've just seen somebody said they don't have permission. Right, is it asking you to sign in? Did I ask? Let me just send it again.
I can't see it either. It's manager. I can't. It's saying that I don't have permission either because I'm signing in from an external site. I don't know.
Yeah,
just bear with me
opened.
one moment, because what it is, it's a bit.ly link, so everybody should be able to. Just bear with me one moment. I've had a response, so some people have been able to. If you could just try it again, try that link again.
No, it says I don't have permission.
Mine's working.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Mine's working as well.
So it's working for some people. Can I ask you to try and copy the link and open it in Google Chrome?
Okay.
Mine wasn't working.
Rashane, is it because the guest?
But then I went back a page.
Yeah.
Clicked back and it worked. So I don't know.
Okay. I mean, it shouldn't matter if anybody's a guest, because it's a bit.ly link, so it's literally it's nothing to do with our actual trust.
Just go back a page. Go back.
Yeah, try and go back, and if that doesn't work, if you ensure that you're using Google Chrome or Google Edge, that may help. But yeah, I've definitely seen that. I've got a few responses. So some people are able to access it, just unfortunately not everyone at the minute.
Jane Bestwick's hand goes up.
Then?
You all right, Jane?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Your hand was up, that's all.
Oh, sorry, it's a legacy hand. I do apologise.
Yeah, it was Shane. I didn't have permission either. I don't know why. And maybe it's because I'm a guest.
Could you try, Audrey, could you try and copy the link into which internet browser are you using?
I can use Chrome or the other one.
Yeah, so could you try and copy it into Chrome and see if that works for you?
Okay, will do.
Because I guess if you haven't got Chrome or Edge as your default browser, it might just try and open it in Internet Explorer, and that may be an issue. So I've had 5 responses so far, which is great. Just had another one, so we've got 6. So it is. So somebody said they can't view it in Chrome or Edge. I'm not sure why it would not be working for some.
Yeah.
Rather than others. I mean, we've had 6 so far. So how many people have we got on the call? We've got 13 of us. So about half of us have been able to do it so far. Just bear with me. Right, we've got another 1, 7. So Audrey, when you tried to put it into Chrome, did is it still saying the same message?
Yes, it is. I did copy both Chrome and Edge.
Okay.
Don't worry, we can. You know,
yeah.
what we've got.
For anybody that can't access it, I'm sorry, I'm not sure why. But at the moment we've had 7 responses. Oh, 8 responses actually. So maybe I'm not. To be honest, I'm not sure why you can't access it. It's nothing to do with our particular trust. It's just a Bitly link that anybody can access. If you can't do it now, then I can forward you over the questionnaire, and then maybe we could just get your responses that way.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think maybe it's because I'm a guest, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it might be. But yeah, for anybody that isn't able to, if you could just send me a message, and then I can just forward you the questionnaire.
Lovely. But what you can do, Roshane, is that while we continue with the presentation, you can just gather some of the information.
I will do.
That would be really lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll move on. Let me get back with the presentation. Give me a second. Find it again. Hopefully you can all see that. Right, okay, so that's the mentee poll. It's just really important for us to do that, actually, because people do raise concerns, but they do raise concerns to others, like their managers, which should really be the first port of call before the Guardian and the champions. But we just wanted to get an understanding, well, who do you raise concerns with, and how confident you do feel in raising concerns? Right, so let us get on to some of the why we're doing this. Cindy has put together the current picture within your trust about raising concerns by ethnicity, and very few BAME staff are speaking up, as you can see. Now, this happens in other trusts as well, where I can understand that figures may also be the same. What we don't have, and this is what we're trying to push for the National Guardian Office to do, is an overall picture of what it looks like by ethnicity of people speaking up. Okay, but we can see that actually that Asian, Black British, mixed teams are not speaking up. So we're working with NOTS jointly with the NHSCI to raise awareness that freedom to speak up is for all workers. Engage and act on opinions of those seldom heard workers, building confidence in the speaking up process, develop an action plan for continuous improvement. I think it's really interesting about seldom heard workers, because when the chief nursing office representative came to us, it was particularly about Filipino workers and them not speaking up. And she's done some great research around, especially Southeast Asian workers, and the cultural barriers that they may have in not speaking up and why they don't speak up, but also the barriers within the NHS of why not speaking up. So hence the reason why we're trying to find out more. So just a little bit about my team. So we support exec leads for Freedom to Speak Up and The Guardian to evaluate their Freedom to Speak Up arrangements and develop an improvement plan. So we work with your executive leads, your executive board and others to understand Freedom to Speak Up within your organisation and to actually develop improvement plan. My colleague Rachel Clark and her team works closely with your board members and other board members. We advise on specific subjects related to Freedom to Speak Up. We feedback on Freedom to Speak Up related documents. We join focus group as a critical friend, as we're doing now, facilitate board development sessions with boards. We do short-term projects to support trust. This is one of them. And I personally manage a whistleblower support scheme. Now, I know the word whistleblower is probably frowned upon, and there's many reasons why it's still called the whistleblower support scheme. But that scheme is mainly for those who have suffered detriment within the NHS. Maybe they've lost their jobs, maybe something has happened, but they apply to become on our scheme. And if they are eligible, what we do, we offer 12 months of support, usually coaching, maybe psychological support. And if some of them have lost their roles, what we try to do is see if we can find a short-term work placement in organisations. That sometimes prove a little bit difficult, especially if they've been out of the workplace for a while, but that's some of the things that the support scheme does. And we also have working within our team, the patient choice team. So just, I'm sure you all know this, I'm speaking to the professionals here, but just to say, what is Freedom to Speak Up? Speaking up is about all those things, about raising a concern, making disclosure, making a complaint, whistleblowing, taking out a grievance, making a qualifying disclosure, suggesting improvement. So speaking up will come in very many different forms. And I know the National Guardian Office has put a push more for just a freedom to speak up, raising concerns, rather than trying to just call it whistleblowing. But if people come to you, speaking up is all those things. It encompasses all those things. It's vital for patient safety as it saves lives, especially, on our whistleblowing scheme. At times we have people there that have spoken up in the public interest, spoken up about patient safety issues. So, however, a good organisation would actually look at this and take action. And that's what we're trying to do, create great organisations, great places to work where people feel psychologically safe to speak up, regardless of their background. However, it's also important for health and well-being and being able to speak up, or not, as in the case may be, directly impact on your experience of work in your organisation. So someone who's unable to speak up within their organisation, it actually directly, as you know, impacts their health and well-being. When workers feel able to call out poor behaviour, disrespect, bullying, team culture improves. Speaking up reduces sickness, grievances, and improves retention. Many years ago, I used to work for the civil service and look at the 100 best companies to work for. And there were certain factors around what made companies great. And some of these things were the things that made companies really good. When workers feel heard, the organisation performs better. Speaking up fuels discussion and enables ideas to be fully explored, evaluated and improved. Right, some of your achievements. Now, Robert and Cindy kindly put these together about what you've achieved in your organisation. So you've developed a forum to help BME staff share their experiences in a safe place and be critical friends. And I'm sure in that forum, people speak up. So there's a forum where people can speak up. You've supported improvement in COVID-19 vaccination uptake programme amongst the BME community. You're instrumental in ensuring that the Trust Board of Directors has reasonable representation of BME non-executive director members and representation of BME staff on interview panels to reinforce equality, ensure value-based recruitment. I think, you know, for an organisation to come this far, that's really good. But, you know, this should be the norm, really, shouldn't it? We shouldn't be really saying these are our achievements. This should be the norm. So some of your staff survey messages, the key messages are 65% of BME staff said that they often or always look forward to going to work, compared to 50% of white staff. 86% of BME staff are able to do the job and they're pleased with it, compared to 81%. And 76 saying able to provide the care they aspire to, compared to 68%. So these are good key things around BME staff. This tells us a lot about our target group. However, there's still more to do, as you will know. So only 58% of BME staff said they feel safe to speak up about anything that concerns them in the organisation, compared to 70% of white staff. And this is why we want to just do this, to get to know what's going on here. 81% of BME staff said they did not experience discrimination, but that's compared to 94% of white staff. And BME staff are more likely to experience violence. BME staff less likely to progress in their careers. BME staff more likely to experience discrimination from parents. It's interesting because in 2000, and you can tell how old I am, but 2000, I was working on starting the Equality Act in central government, and we were looking around gender, we were looking about Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, and some of these things were coming up then. And so, 20 years on, we're still grappling with this. And so this is really interesting that we're still fighting with some of these things. This should really not be the case. Let me stop there for now. Fine. I'm back. Any questions before we move on? Any thoughts? Let me see the conversations. Any thoughts from anyone? Anything that you didn't know or you... Christine, yes.
The one about where ethnic minorities are less likely to move up in the ladder, I just think it's disgusting. I really do. And a prime example, a friend of mine came for an interview at NUH and he didn't get the job, and the feedback was because he didn't have experience in one of their in-house application. Now, how are you meant to get that experience if you're not in the job? And he was black, and to be honest, I sent an email to the director. He got his secretary to email me back, and all they said was, you know, we've taken it in hand and we're going to give the staff or the person that was interviewing more training. That was it. And I just think you can't get that experience if you're not in that place to do that job, because it's not something that you can learn online. It's within the organisation. So I don't think things will ever change, to be honest.
Yeah, I think things will change. Let's be hopeful, because this is why you're here. This is why others are here. Things will change. And, you know, I'm impressed with what your BME group are doing anyway to try and get these things. And it'll come in small steps. Sometimes you have to just do the 10% stretch, but the 10% stretch will become bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think things, and very fact that you've spoken up and pointed that out, I think that's, that's a start.
Yeah.
Who's Simbi? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Audrey. I just wanted also to add to what you have just said about, well, it's to do with the stats that you have presented. Now, some of you will know that according to the Freedom to Speak Up Index score, based on the 2020 staff survey, Notes Healthcare was the 6th most improved trust across the whole country. So we've done really well in improving our speaking up culture. However, the data, when compared to BME, as indicated already in some of the information we had there, we had other slides, but we could not be covering that today. But the data shows that it's not quite that with regards to BME staff, which is again why we are doing what we are doing. So even though speaking up has improved across our organization, it hasn't done the same for our BME staff. There's still some hesitance and also some fear and, feeling that I cannot raise a concern. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll take a couple more questions, then we'll move on. Is the Dadira, hope I make this pronounced.
Daddy Rai.
Daddy
Yeah.
Rai, oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you, that's okay.
Yes, your hand was up. Did I see that? Daddy Rai?
Hiya, can you hear me?
I can now, yes.
Okay, hi. Yeah, just to add on, when you say our organization has improved a bit, commenting on what Simbi said, obviously we have to be positive. As for me, I would say we are nowhere near, because we need to, for example, we put a picture of a black lady on recruitment page, which is misleading because we want to tell the world that our organization is inclusive. Why would we as an organization put a picture of a black lady on recruitment page when on the ground people, we are still suffering, we are not included? So for us, we need, before we start talking about improvement, what is it that we want as BME people to improve? And also, why are we rushing to do such things to mislead people? Let's resolve our issues on the ground. Let's make Black people included before we start telling the world that we are inclusive when we are not. I personally think that needs to be looked at, especially the picture that was put on recruitment. To me, I find it really, to me, it's a disgrace to see my fellow Black person's picture on recruitment website giving false information to people out there that come and work for North Healthcare Trust because we are inclusive, when actually on the ground, people like myself from that background, we are still suffering. So those things need to be addressed first before we quickly rush into putting pictures of BME misleading people. Because if we do that, this is the reason why we are saying things are improving. Yes, on the paper, but on the actual ground, we are still suffering.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Dada Ryan. I think, this is all data. That's what I always say, whether the information is what we want to hear or not, it's all data. And I hope that we can do something with this. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. And I think now we have a couple of speakers. And Christine is going to speak about some experiences in Freedom to Speak Up. So Christine, if you can take the floor, please.
Hello, everyone. I'll try and make this as quick as possible because I know we've got schedule. So I used to work for East Midlands Ambulance Service, and cut long story short, I was being micromanaged by my manager and my team leader. Everything that I asked, it was no. I joined BAME organisation whilst at East Midlands Ambulance, and I was questioned by my manager as to why who thought of it, who said you could join, all these questions. And I was the only black person within my team. Everybody else was white. And everything they asked for, they got. And everything I asked for in the same situation, it was a no. And this went on for about 4 or 5 months, and it started to drag me down. And I wanted to make a complaint higher up. I was too scared. I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was going home crying every evening. I was coming into work quiet, not talking to anyone. And I went to somebody else and spoke to them, got HR involved, and HR sent an email to higher above. And in the end, we went to see them together. I went to my GP before that, and he wanted to sign me off and told me, I was suffering with depression. I didn't want to be signed off because I was looking for a new job and I didn't want that sickness shown on my record. But it was resolved. I mean, there was ways around it whereby I could have had a new manager. I could have sat in a different department, but just being in that organisation with that person, I just didn't want to, and I just wanted a clean break and to get away. So it was all good. I'm happy I spoke up, but after I left, I heard that she was still there and the team leader is still there. My manager at the time now, she walked, brackets pushed. But yeah, it wasn't easy speaking up. It wasn't easy speaking up at all. It was just disheartening as a black person and everybody else being white, and it was no for me being questioned. BAME organisation at a conference in London, I was questioned over that. Why do I want to go? Who organised it? And it was just a nightmare. It was just a nightmare. But the IRO knew where I was coming from, and instead of giving 4 weeks notice, allowed me to give 1 week's notice. And I left and I came here. But just quickly, I was ready to put in a complaint, a formal complaint, because one of my staff, the consultant, spoke to my manager, my current manager, and said that one of my staff, I know them personally outside of the organisation. I interviewed them and I knew them before I actually interviewed them. Well, last week, Friday, I was in bits. I broke down in tears because it was all lies. I was annoyed, I was angry. I wanted to know where we got this information from. And so I emailed my manager and said I want to make a formal complaint. And when I came into work Monday, she said, let's all meet and get this discussed. She said, I've got to ask you this question. Do you know this person outside of work? Because I'm hoping you're going to say no because you would have told me. And I said, no, I don't. And that is the truth. I don't know this person. And again, this person's mixed race. I'm black. The consultant, why all of a sudden is bringing this up? Who's told him this? And it wasn't even a question, does she? It was, she knows. And that's what got to me. So this meeting's going to be held next Monday at 10:30. I'm going to try and keep my cool. I'm going to try and keep it mellow. Whether I can is another thing, because you're telling lies on me basically, and I don't like that. So yeah.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you. I've just had a thought actually that I know we're recording this, so we might have to think about editing and stuff, because I don't, want to put Christine in a So just simply before we put anything out, let's think about how we do that. So, but thank you so much for sharing that, Christine. And speaking up is not the easiest thing, and people do leave organizations, and it's interesting that it's not organizations that people leave, sometimes it's the people that they're managers that they leave. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now we have someone else to speak. Let me just see who that is. Daddy Ray, I've mispronounced your name again, but can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself? Thank you.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Dadira Msekiwa. I joined the trust in 2018, and on KMC, we used to have wards at KMC. Then when the wards were closed, I was moved to Broomhill House. It was closed. Then I was moved to Highbury Hospital. Now I'm based at Crisis Team, so I've been to different 4 different places. So my experience was more or less similar to Christine, but myself, I want to focus on recommendations, as well as I'll talk a bit about my experience. I suffered in the hands of our organization. I tried my best to speak up to the management. They were sitting on my complaints. I spoke to HR, and I would say they did what they could, but they could do more. So things were really bad, to the extent that people were being recruited on the ward to gang up against me, to put complaints against me, microaggression, discrimination. I suffered all sorts, physical assaults on the wards, but nothing was done. We were meeting with the management. They were not recording anything. At some point, I had to say to the management, I blame the management, because these people continued to bully me in the hands of the organization, and nothing is being done. If the organization or management sit up with them and say, you know what, you need to change your attitude, you need to change your behavior, things will change. But in my case, nothing was done. So at some point, I was accused of not talking to these 2 people because they were young to me. I don't know their age. I don't have to ask them their age, and I don't go out with them where I would say I know their age, but sort of things do happen. So when I was speaking up, I was they didn't like it. They didn't like it at all. Hence the reason why people were being recruited to watch my back and to make sure they will report. If the wards are short, I was being asked to go and work on those wards. If I say I can't, then I'll be threatened that it will be reported to the senior management, and the senior management were aware of all this, but nothing was done. To the extent that I went into depression. I was off sick for 3 to 4 months, ended up on antidepressants because of that. But nothing was done. I don't want to talk much about union. It's a story for another day. So it ended up that management then asked a person to put a complaint against me. However, this complaint, the person who was the senior cover was from BME, but they made it that the other person will put a complaint on behalf of that person. And the complaint was malicious. It was all lies. But they thought they had the opportunity to put me on Section 10. And I mentioned to union, and I mentioned that I was going to, before I mentioned it to union, when John Bruin took over, joined our organization, he sent an email to say that those who have got anything that they want to contribute, anyone that want to make an appointment with him can do so that we can improve our organization. So I read the email. So we had a meeting, and I mentioned it in the meeting that people, we need to speak up these things that we were talking about. John Bruin, our new chief executive, is saying A, B, C, D. Let's talk about it so that we can improve our services. In that meeting, I was told by the manager straight in face in front of everyone that if you don't want to work here, you can look for another job. Yeah. That's the same manager that went on to tell the other person to put complaint against me in an attempt to put me on Section 10, which they did. And when they did all that, I had supervision and everything. Everything was recorded, signed up. They I told union that I was going to put a grievance, but union said, don't worry, the organization is aware of that. I said, yes, they might be aware, but I want to put a grievance. So I ended up putting a grievance on my own, despite paying the union. I don't want to focus on a union. Let's leave it for another day.
Dadri, just because of time as well, just
yes.
so that you can...
So just to cut story short, when I put a grievance, the investigation to me wasn't, it wasn't fair, because some of the supervision that we had and we signed, they said that it wasn't done because the moment she mentioned this, it was stopped. So why was the documentation signed? So my point is, we have a culture, it's a systematic that we are dealing with. Yeah. So for us to say things will change, yes, John Bruin is saying the right thing, and John Bruin wants change. But the problem is John Bruin is not going to bring change. Change is going to come from us who are on the ground. But us who are on the ground, we are quite happy with our behavior because we have been doing it for so long. And the system, we created a system whereby it works and victimize the victim. So just to cut the story short, but I then started speaking up and supporting BME people, and I joined Freedom to Speak Up now. But I've got lots to say because I suffered this for four and a half years. So I've got more to say, but because of time, I'll leave it there. But I just want to thank John Bruin to give people this opportunity, which we never used to have. But however, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, especially on the ground, because up there, the right thing is being said, but down here, we are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to both our speakers. The conversation can go on in our breakout rooms as well. And, you know, it's interesting, even I've put in the chat that speaking up is not easy, as much as even I work for Freedom to Speak Up, but I can understand how difficult it is sometimes and what people go through. And sometimes, you know, it's keeping it to ourselves. But as both of you said, it affected both your health and well-being. Now, what we want to do, and, you know, is now to get a grip of, okay, we know some things aren't working well. What can we do? What can we do as a starting point? How can we build on what we've already done? And this is what I want the breakout rooms to do. So we have two wonderful breakout facilitators, and we've got some questions to ask. Now, just let me get in touch with Roshan because we want to know how we're going to do this. So, Roshan, do you know how many's on this call? Sorry, and
so there were 6, 7. Sorry, let me just get, because I think somebody's dropped off. It tells us how much people are actually on the call. We've actually got 14 people on the call in total. So I suppose if we could do 7 go into breakout room 1 and 7 go into breakout room 2.
Okay, so what we're going to do, let me just put up the questions so I can tell what people the breakout rooms will entail. Let me get the questions. Hope I've got the questions. Where are they? Oh, yeah. Right, let me just share that with you. And as Roshan's going to actually put this in the
I will share the link to each breakout rooms in this chat.
Yeah. So let me just tell you what the questions are. That was very powerful, both of you. So thank you both very much. So in breakout room 1, we're going to have questions A and question B. What would make it easier for you to speak up? And how could we make you feel valued as a person? I'm not too sure who's the facilitator of breakout room 1, but Roshan's doing that now. But basically, the 2 questions we want you to focus on, if you want to focus on other things, yes, do. But these are the 2 that we really would like you to focus on. What would make it easy for you to speak up? And how could we make you feel valued as a person? And then in breakout room 2, how could we improve confidence in staff speaking up? And here's a tricky question, but I hope you get your head around it. But if Speaking Up was working at its best in this organisation for BME staff, what would that look like? So tell us about what it would look like rather than what it doesn't look like. So I just want us to sort of stay in that mode of thinking, okay, let's create a vision here of what we want it to look like. So Speaking Up was working at its best in this organisation for BME staff. What would that look like for you? Okay, so we're gonna give you, let me just see the time here. Time is it? So 10:50. We're gonna give you probably until about 11:15. We'll see how that's going now because time's getting short. We'll give you to about 11:15, and just to discuss this and have a great discussion. So if some of you could go in one breakout room and some of you go in the other, and then we're going to have some time to feedback later on. Good. I hope everyone's back. That was so amazing. That was really a great conversation. Another couple of minutes.
Yeah, looks like everyone's back, I think.
Excellent. Okay. So thank you all so much. That was so good. We're going to have a bit of feedback in a short while. But I think we've got Annette who's going to just speak to us for a short while. She's just revealed some information to us. I don't know if you want to share that.
Thank you, Audrey. Please stop me when my 10 minutes is up, because I also have to go into my workshop, or even if it's 8 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
So when Simbi asked me to speak, I thought, what does she want me to speak about? Because, you know, you've got the whole agenda of freedom to speak up, and it clearly says why we need to speak. So I thought I would make it a little bit personal and say, well, I need to speak up because I need to be the bridge rather than the barrier to patient safety and care and to my colleagues' health and well-being. And how I come about that is, and I think you already said it, Audrey, is we need to be, all of us, critical friends and supporters of the organization. We need to be able to put that nudge when things are going wrong, not when things have become catastrophic. And I thought to myself, where do I get that from? Well, I get that from my African background. I live by the philosophy of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a restorative justice community centric ethos. And what it says is, I am because of you all. I am connected to all you guys, and therefore, whoever you are, even if I don't quite see from the same lens, we still live in the same ecosystem. I also get that I need to speak up from being unapologetically an NHS worker. And I say that with pride because when the NHS was first formed in 1948, right at the beginning, the system knew that it needed more people than it currently had. So it did go around and pick up everybody. We know why the Windrush came about. It went into the colonies and brought people. And it states on its system that it is inclusive to everyone. That is what the NHS constitution says. That is also what our trust says with its just and restorative culture. But I am also led by evidence and research. And sadly, folks, the research tells us that the reality is our stated values and our lived values there is a gap and there is a lot of improvement to be done. If we look at our RES data, which is the Workforce Race and Equality Standards, if we look at our staff survey, it tells us that the gaps are big. One person who experiences bullying, harassment, victimization is one person too many. But if that person experiences it purely because of their color, and I do say color instead of just race, because I have heard people say, the only thing, you are always talking about your color, but that is how you perceive me. That's how you see me. When you first see me, it is my color that you first see me. So I can't take that away. You wouldn't be able to know what my sexual orientation was. You wouldn't be able to know what my religion was. You might not at times even know what my sex is, depending on how I'm dressed. But what you will actually know is because of my color. And because of that, I am saddened that the RES, which started in 2015, has moved at a snail's pace, not just for the Notts Healthcare, but for all of us. And I think I liked the quote that somebody was trying to bring forward. We are always throwing out there how fantastic we have done. We haven't, as the NHS system, sat down and say, how, folks, do we improve this for each other? We are coming from 270 countries. We're not coming from one country to deliver this care. How do we all become part of it and contribute? The system, though, on the other hand, makes me feel powerful, because the system tells me that I, just like any of you, I am important. I contribute to patient care. I also have got the power to speak up. Now, how I do that is a choice. I can either speak up by myself and bring it up in the forums that I have, or I can study the system and know where I need to go to have the most powerful impact and influence. I know it is very difficult, and it is difficult for all of us, but if we want to see the change, whoever we are, we have got to be part of this game. We have got to be able to, on a daily basis in our encounters, ensure that what we are doing is embracing diversity and including. People have already come up with very simple but very prophetic things. If your table doesn't look like it's inclusive, ask the question, why is it not inclusive? I have been now at Rampton for 30 years. And when I first came here, I was one of the very few. And I was feisty. I was a young girl, and therefore Jane reminds me a bit of that. And I fought every single battle that I could fight, because I had been taught at home that I'm okay. So to come into an environment where people were constantly hitting against me, I was. But that became tiresome. So what I did is I collected a network of people of different kinds, whether they were the fighters, whether they were the networkers, whether they were the appeasers. So I have what you call a personal board of mentors. Manjit now and again is brought in when I'm going from transition to transition in my life. And it was through discussions with Manjit that I decided the time was right for me to retire and then go into a new chapter. I have been able to keep my ears on the floor by talking to some of you. I've spoken to Daddy about what it feels like to be on the shop floor. Now, at systems level, I really do think that you radically, forget about your equality impact assessments, you radically have got to look at what you are trying to achieve with your justice and restorative culture. In order to get there, do not be going step by step. This is section 10, this is this. Really listen to the person who has come in. I don't care whether the person is the perpetrator or whether the person is the victim or whether the person is a witness or whether the person is a passive observer. Listen to what they are saying or not saying or what they are feeling. And validate, it doesn't mean agree, but validate that which they are saying. Acknowledge them. Give them your time, your presence. Address them the way they want to be addressed. Give them the tissue if they require one, but give them the space. If you don't have time to speak to them at that point in time, please set a time aside. There is nothing as bad as coming into your office, Audrey, and you are busy typing away something and saying, I will be with you. And then the next thing you're speaking to Mary Jane about something and laughing, and I am there really brought down. So I really think, folks, we have a long way to go. But what I'm excited about is that each one of us can contribute to that change. Because you know what? We do belong to the NHS. And the NHS says that we have a right to belong there. And we have a right to make a difference. We also are privileged in being professionals. So we have got our code of conduct. The NMC says to me that patient safety and safety of people is the most powerful thing. And that is what I will live by. And if I get into a bother, then NMC has got to come in and see what's going on with that, because I pay £120 every year. So that is another reason for that. The other part of it is belong to various communities. I love being a nurse. So I belong to the nurse community, both locally and regionally, to find out and nationally, to find out what my profession is going. And it is in discussing with people that I discover that perhaps I might have gotten it a bit wrong, or, my passion was really good, but perhaps Simbi is the one who might just bring it down to a measured level for me to take it forward. I think with what Audrey, you brought the figures up, what I would just say to that would be, then what we need to focus on within our trust is the retention. Rather than focusing on the recruitment and putting out there how wonderful we are, let us focus on the folks that we already have got. They came into the trust for a reason. They came to contribute. They are still there. They are still wanting to make a change. Let's listen to them. Thank you.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness, that was so amazing. Let me give you a clap there. Thank you so much, Annette, and we wish you all the best in your new ventures. I'm sure you're going to still be very impactful wherever you go and whatever you start to do. And I'm hoping that it's going to remain in the healthcare sector at a board level or something like that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to all our speakers.
Thank you. Audrey, can I just say before I go, because I'm going to go to a workshop, somebody had talked about training. I agree wholeheartedly that training is not the full answer to it. But the workshops that we have been holding have been spaces for psychological safety in order that people can recognize their own implicit biases, because we all have got them, the microaggressions and how we might challenge them at a micro level before it even goes up the system. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Great. Thank you. Well, okay then. So we are now just going to get some feedback from the two facilitators who actually facilitated the workshop. So, Christine, I can see you on my screen. Do you want to say how it went and what were the top 3, top 5 things?
It was good. A lot of comments. So obviously the first question was, how could we improve confidence in staff speaking up? Like Deborah mentioned, given time and the space, protected time to speak up. Within the investigation, conduct, promise, and feedback, and not just at the end of everything, like say 6 months, 7 months, but you know, keep that person updated. And then she said, visibility is key. And Angela mentioned, you know, feel confident in talking to your manager, but if you don't, obviously, you know, there's other routes you can go down. And also it depends where you work and what the issue is, whether you can speak up to your manager. People who are black, can you really speak up to your manager if they're white, or would you prefer to go to somebody else, i.e. a champion who is black, and vice versa? So that was the other one. Manjit mentioned, how does the board get a true picture as us working as a black person, you know, which I suppose that is a big one. They're up there. Do they see what's going off down here, and how some of us might be suffering, you know? And how do they hear about the issues? How does the board and the trust hear about the issues? And again, if Manjit was to speak up, where's her protection? You know, who protects her in the sense of how's it going to go? You know, somebody speaks up and there's still animosity within the department. Where do you go? And Rashane was saying it's becoming like a tick box. Again, the trust wants to show that this box has been ticked, that box has been ticked, and yeah. And just quickly, it was only a couple. If speaking up was working at its best in this organisation for BAME staff, what would that look like for you? And Manjit just mentioned some like clear set out clear processes, champion supporting, best practice, and what happens to the perpetrator, you know, which I think is another good one. If you make a complaint, however small it is, that person that's making the complaint should be able to know what's happened to the other person. Yeah, so yeah, it was good discussion.
I
think what we also mentioned is with the perpetrator, we need to know what's happened, and it's not just about you moving on or the perpetrator, you know, staying in their job, because that's what I've found personally when I've had to deal, when I've also been involved in a grievance in my previous trust where I was the one was moved on, the perpetrator stayed where they were. So you actually feel like you're no longer the victim, you're actually you're the one that must be at fault. So, and that has to change, has to.
Yeah. Thank you, Christine. Some of those notes, if you can type them up for us and give them to Simbi, it'd be great if you.
Yeah, sure, that's no problem. Yeah.
Lovely, excellent.
You're
Sarah.
welcome.
Hello there. I wasn't as clever as Christine, and I didn't write mine down on paper, and they were all in the chat, and I was typing away furiously. But I think I can, you know, certainly think of the main theme, and that is systematic change, systematic change, systematic change. And a really good point I thought was that you know, if we start at ward level, where the majority of our patients are and the majority of our carers are and our nurses are, and make the speaking up process everyday business to everybody, regardless of where you are in the organisation, and accessible and visible in a micro way, then that is going to kind of, as Simbi says in her presentations to us, it's going to be business as usual. You know, let's just make this normal, that we can raise a concern and speak up about it. I'm just racking my brains. If anybody else who was in breakout room 1 can give me a nudge, I'd really appreciate that, because like I say, I was typing furiously as you were all speaking.
Allies, I think.
Yes,
the champions brought, that was really a good point as well, about having allies.
Yeah, 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 and also, you know, we have got colleagues who are not BAME who are eager to represent voices. If you don't feel as though you are feeling strong enough or supported enough or brave enough to speak up and make your voice heard, maybe you tried and maybe it's not worked, and you know, we do have colleagues that are prepared to take on that and help us and scaffold and be there with us, standing side by side to make sure that our voice is actually heard and not just the voice that gets diluted maybe. So I think that was one of the other points as well. Anybody else want to add to what I just, you know, recall?
Sorry. It was about role modelling as well, Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Jane.
And I think if they see, like, I think, like we said, if you go from the bottom to the top, because it's all right when you're at the top of the chain saying, oh, right, apologies, I've got hay fever. It's all right saying at the top of the chain, oh, we understand, we know, but how much time do they actually spend on the ward with the people who are subject to this sort of thing? And I think, you know, if we get role models in at the coalface, so to speak, for want of a better word, and educate, enable and empower people and have the courage, give them the courage to speak up and say, it's like a point that, you know, people put things on Facebook, you can either love it or hate it, but be that person who stands out from the crowd and say, actually, that's wrong, that. You know, don't be scared. And if people see you doing that, then they follow. You know, and it's about really being a really, really good role model to others.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Did you have, was there anything else? Was there anything else from other members of the group?
I just wanted to say I got my hand up, but
yes.
I think I agree about sort of making it everyday business, and ideally you should be in a place where no matter who you are, you should be able to go to your manager as your first point of call, and everybody should feel confident to speak up. That's what you're aiming for. But we talked about, sometimes I get the confidentiality, but the organisation sort of feeding back more regularly some of the themes, and these are some of the themes that are coming up, and this is what we've done about it, and the organisation sort of taking sort of ownership, because a lot of people don't speak up because on an individual basis you want feedback, but you also want to know what the organisation is learning from people speaking up. And if you see that, then you're more likely to speak up because you can see that the organisation is taking it seriously.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Angela. Thank you. Yeah. Daddy Rye, I'm still pronouncing your name wrong, but please, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. Just to add on this issue of speaking up, I had the opportunity, I was on the ward, like I said, I used to work on the wards for years. I think the problem is not the staff as per se, but is the management. Because if, as a manager, if you notice something or someone speak up and you tell the person that, you know what, this is wrong, that person is bound to change. But if the management are not taking it serious and they are showing the staff that, you know what, if you do something, this one will get a lesser discipline than the other, that on its own will divide us when we are not supposed to be divided. So I personally think that as much as we talk about, but then it will come back to this issue of nepotism in recruitment. If you see the number of BME people, for example, at Highbury Hospital, and you will hardly find one of the top people in senior management, then that on its own will give us a clear picture. As much as we want to say we are changing, we are changing. To me, I would say there's a lot that needs to be done. Because if we are saying we are changing and still the ground is still the same, then there's a problem. And the other thing is, the moment that there's someone from BME who's showing interest in progression, their dreams are shut down. just to discourage them to continue. Then you hear that, oh, BME people, they don't want to apply for position. Why? Let's ask ourselves that question as an organization, why they don't want to apply. They've been applying for many jobs and they were being turned down because we for example, myself, I grew up in Zimbabwe. So my hobbies and Sarah's hobbies are different and Jane's hobbies are different. So maybe Jane enjoy going to the pub, I don't drink. So we are two different people. Therefore, our connection is going to be difficult in that regards. But when it comes to position, let's say Jane is the one who is recruiting, but then she goes somewhere with Simbi and they meet in the pub and things like that. So there's a connection there. So on that regards, we need to put action or words into practice. We have been saying this and John is saying the right thing, but we need to put our words into practice. And as much as we talk about training, yes, let's train each other. But if you look at it, how long this organization has been running, if we are training people right now about racism, it makes me question the way the patient from minority people have been treated, because those are the same nurses that we are training today, but they've been treating our patients. What sort of treatment were they being given? So we need to be realistic with these things. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I can't see any other hands up. Thank you all. Now, oh gosh, we're back on time, I think, and this time was really just question and answers. So there was myself and Simbi, and I think one or two others. So if anyone does have any questions before we bring this to a close, we're going to just tell you a little bit about next steps. But we just wanted, if there was any burning questions, you wanted to know what we're doing at a national level, or maybe what you wanted more locally, then please just use the next 5 minutes or so. Yes.
Yes, can I just say a quick one? I want to know why we put a picture of a minority staff on our recruitment. I've mentioned it before, so I just thought I'll use this opportunity. Is there any reason why we put a picture of a minority lady on our recruitment page? Thank you.
Right. Sorry, that maybe needs to be.
I spoke about this earlier, Simbi, in the breakout room that I was in, and I said, so for me, because I work in that department, and we were kind of helping with the recruitment campaign, and I genuinely said it felt like a tick box. It felt like they said, right, let's get an Asian lady, let's get a black person, tick, and then yeah, a white person. Whereas in the organization is predominantly white. So speaking firsthand of somebody that was involved in that project, I genuinely felt like it was a tick box. And I did express that I felt like it was a tick box. But I think, as Daddy Ray mentioned earlier, I think it's the management level in between, because John, Paul and everyone, all the execs, they want to know what they can do to help, and they want there to be no racism within the workplace. But then, I don't know. So when I expressed it, it was kind of just like, yeah, but then like nothing, it was just like everyone agreed, but then it still went ahead anyway. So for me,
okay,
sorry about that, but then that means that you are not the organization is not taking this seriously.
Yeah,
because if you are taking it seriously, honestly, we should start listening to those people who are being affected, and we should start iron out things on the ground rather than misleading people out there. This is exactly what our organization have been doing for years, ticking box.
Okay, can I just bring this sort of, because this will go into a conversation that probably will take us somewhere that we can't answer. And I suppose you guys in your organization have the power. Now, for me, it depends what spectacles you're wearing. Sometimes I think it could be a good thing. Sometimes it could be seen as a tick box, but I won't get into that conversation now. But sometimes for me, little progress is better than no progress, but that's just my opinion. Simbi, you had your hand up.
Yes, I probably will echo the same words what you have just said. Little progress is better than no progress. We know that this is a national thing. It's not just here. The idea of inclusion has come up very, very strong this time. And there is that recognition that Black and ethnic minority groups underrepresented in many sectors, especially as you go at the top. So there is that aspiration that we should be doing this, which is why, you know, hence the picture, the photo of that. This is what we intend to do. But like Annette said, that our stated values and our lived lives, sometimes there is a gap. So I think probably that gap is there. And what I should imagine as an organization is to try and push to close that gap. So the intention is there. This is what we want to do. We want our organization to represent the diversity in our workforce. But maybe it will take a long while to get there. So it's a good intention, I think, in it, I suppose. That's what I could say. Thank you.
Thank you, Simbi. I know, and I agree. But yes, I love the words that that was spoken about. You know, what the intent was and what the outcome was. Did I just see Angela's hand? Angela?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something quickly. I get what Daddy Ray's saying, and there have been, I know as the co-chair of the BME network, we've been involved in the meetings about values-based recruitment and talking about diversity of panels and recruitment and stuff, and having those conversations there of it not just being a tick box exercise. And I think sometimes it's more about targeting recruiting managers, and it's lower down the organisation, and it's about at the top, John and the executives are really keen, but it's getting to your recruiters.
Yeah.
Lower down the organisation.
Yeah, thank you. And just as well, I mean, I'm going to bring this in here, and I know this is going to sound a little bit controversial, but let's be careful that everything that the organisation does, let's not always be suspicious about it, because of course it might not look as if it's in alignment, but as I said, it could be a step. And this is when at least, you know, you can then bring up those suggestions. Well, actually, yes, you're putting that picture out there, but yeah, this is really what's happening on the ground. But sometimes aligning things can take time. So the intent might be good, but actually it's not yet aligned as we were saying before, at a system level. So just a thought there. I know, I just wanted to acknowledge, I know this isn't your name, Ella Wallington, I know it's not your name, but you've said, I'm the only white bloke here. And thanks for coming, and thanks for, you know, attending. And I hope you've learnt and, you know, contributed to some of the things that were said here today. So thank you so much for coming to that. And because of that, I know time's going. So should we move on to the next steps, Simbi? First of all, as Cindy says, just from a national level, she did talk about inclusive recruitment at a national level, and we are looking at that at the moment. And I believe there are some pilot organisations that have been set up over the past 6 months to be pilots for inclusive recruitment. So at a national level, it is strong on the agenda, very much strong on the agenda. Of course, it may seem as if it's taken a long time, but I think from conversations like this, and I think from the conversation that Annette said, that sometimes some things start at the micro level. And whilst we're doing it at the national level, yes, there's the micro level to be considered. There's what can you do as an individual? What can you do in your teams? What can you do in your ward? What can you do in your directorate? What can you do in your organisation? So if you have two from the national and the ground level coming at it both at the same time, then hopefully we can address things quicker, hopefully. What else are we doing at a national level? At a national level, with the Freedom to Speak Up agenda, we're doing this. We're trying to get an understanding about, you know, what goes on in the Freedom to Speak Up arena for particularly all groups. And today's conversation has definitely been an eye-opener for me. And hopefully from this, we will start putting other things together. And I know at a regional level as well, there's now very much focus on equality and race equality and freedom to speak up agenda there, and looking at it from not just a trust level, but also from an ICS level as well. So there's lots going on there. Simbi, if you want to.
Okay. Am I? Oh, I thought I was muted. Wow, this has been fantastic. I just want to thank everyone for attending, and also to thank Audrey for this fantastic workshop that we have heard. So the last final remarks that I will like to just talk about as we just bring the workshop to a close is maybe to talk about next step, what we will do. But before I talk about next step, I think what we have done in this workshop is to consider ways of improving our speaking up experience as BME. It was clear that there are hurdles, there are challenges in speaking up, and a lot of work that the organization has to do. But I think another message which was clear throughout was that if we want to see change, we need to be part of the change. So I hope that we do feel empowered from today's workshop, that we're going to do things differently. There was just one last slide that Audrey, we were going to do, which shows the structure or how we can speak up in our organization.
Should I get that?
What steps? Yes, please.
Yeah,
and then I can.
Let me do that now. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry about that.
So while Audrey is bringing up that, I will just talk about some of the things that we are doing and what we are going to do following these workshops. So we will devise an action plan, what we can do, and obviously it will point out our target areas, what we should do, as we have already pointed out or acknowledged that most of our BME staff work nights. We are going to focus on how best we can target that group. Can we have more champions, or have more champions for working night staff, etc. So we will be looking at that, as well as all the other comments that I hope that the facilitators of breakout rooms will put together, the comments that people have fed back. Training, I would also want to encourage you to take up your Freedom to Speak Up training, which is available on Connect. So if we can try and all do that training, please, it would really help us in with regards to understanding more about freedom to speak up and what to expect when we speak up, etc. So it's there. If you type "speak up," the NGO, together with Health Education England, developed a package of 3 training e-learning, which is 1, speak up for everyone, and then listen up for managers. Everyone who is a manager at any level, you can take both the speak up and then the listen up. And then there is follow up, which is coming out, which is targeted at the executives. But again, they will have to take the other 2, which makes 3 for the executive. So that's training. And finally, we have also got Freedom to Speak Up Month coming, which I hope that after today, you will all feel empowered to join in, and let's all campaign during October. We'll be sending out some suggestions and activities, posters, chat boards and everything. Our champions, together with myself, we are busy trying to plan that our October month will be very busy, and we'll make a loud noise about speaking up. And also, as I've said, we are going to collate all the feedback from the 4 workshops. So this one is the first one out of the 4 that we are going to do. We've got another one this afternoon, and then we've got 2 others on the 23rd. As a Freedom Speak Up champion, you are free to join as many as you want, but for the rest of the BME, you probably just need to attend one because they will be similar. And for those of us who are presenting, I hope you will come back again. Yeah, I think, as you can see on there for the next step, let's just go to that diagram. Thank you. Yeah, I realized that we've got 2 minutes. So this flow diagram, this chart, we have it on our Freedom to Speak Up policy, and is also available on Connect on our Freedom to Speak Up web page. It explains how you can speak up and the sort of things that you can speak up about. I've covered these sometimes in my presentation. I will not be able to go through the sort of examples, but anything that gets in the way of you providing good care is something you can speak up about. So in the first instance, you can speak to your line manager. Your line manager is the first person you can speak to. If your issue is resolved, yes, that's fine, it's done. But if you feel that your issue has not been resolved, your next step is you can speak to your to another line manager, or you can speak to the Freedom Speak Up Guardian. If at this point, again, you still don't feel that your issue is resolved, then there are other ways of raising. You can speak, that I was mentioning about our executive director. He operates an open policy when it comes to speak up culture. You can approach our CEO as well. However, there's also external sources where you can speak up externally, which obviously as an organization, we don't really that would be your last resort. It's an option, but we think that if you speak to us in the first instance, then, we would look at making sure you are heard. Otherwise, if you just start by speaking to CQC or to NHS Improvement or to the National Guardian's Office, then we are missing the opportunity to learn and to improve. So this is our speaker process, and I hope that everyone finds me that they can approachable, that they can speak to the Guardian. If you feel that there are challenges you are going through, please don't suffer in silence. And thank you again for joining this meeting. It's been wonderful to have you. And spread the word. Those who haven't joined, encourage them to join the next workshops we have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all, everyone. It's really been great being on this workshop. And as Simbi said, please spread the word, because I think that's how we'll build up this momentum and hopefully keep the momentum going. I know Manjit has gone, but just with regard to the board and exec board, Simbi does report to them around what's happening in the Freedom to Speak Up agenda. I mean, obviously things are confidential, but yeah, she does give figures, so she will be reporting about this. And in terms of these pilots as well, what we want to do, obviously, as Simbi said, it's about how we can put something in the organisation so it continuously improve, but also what do we need to do more at a national level. So thank you all so much. It was great meeting you.
Yes, fantastic.
Do you want to hold on, Simbi, and we can just have a little chat?
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you, everyone. Thank you, Christine, and
thank you, Rishan. We'll see you again at 2 o'clock, Rishan, for supporting us with the next session. Sarah, amazing. Sarah, you're joining us again, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be on in the afternoon session.
Yeah, and Christian, yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. See you later, some of you. Bye-bye.